we are coming off of the back end of a trip to Disney World that the two of us took together. I went to visit Candace and we went to Disney World. And because we were at Disney World, that naturally meant we went to Galaxy's Edge, of course, because how could we not? And that experience has inspired us today to talk about Rise of the Resistance.
Yes, we get to talk about two of our favorite things, theme parks and Star Wars.
And objectively, the best possible marriage of the two.
Exactly. It's ranked number one in a lot of people's lists, including Theme Park Insider. Those people have been on all the rides, so they know what they're
They
talking about.
know.
And this is a ride that's in Galaxy's Edge at Disney World Hollywood Studios and Disneyland. And it's soon going to be at Walt Disney Studios in Paris, which honestly, that park really needs a ride like this. We went last year
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Oh my
we
God.
spent just a couple hours there.
Studio Park definitely needs something else because as of right now, it's very hodgepodgey and there's not a ton to do, which doesn't really justify like a 2-day trip to
Yeah.
Disneyland Paris, in my opinion.
We did one day and we did majority of
Did
everything we
most
wanted
of
to
it.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
yeah,
this ride was open December 5th, 2019, first in Disney World. And honestly, Galaxy's Edge desperately needed this ride because going when it's just Smuggler's Run, it's a really cool scene. And the restaurant is cute and the
fine.
bar is a little crowded, but it's
Fine.
got the atmosphere. But yeah, it really needed this ride. And what was your first impressions?
I'm glad that I went in fairly spoiler free. I knew about the Stormtrooper room because,
Yeah, because everyone took photos of
it's
that all
everybody
over
pictures. So
Instagram.
I knew that I thought that was like a backdrop or that it was smaller than it actually was. But my first impression was honestly just impressed because spoilers for this ride, if you haven't been on it and you don't want to know what happens, like just stop listening now because we're just going to spoil the whole thing. The bit in the beginning when you go into Ray's little room and she gives you the deal, and then you cross the courtyard to go into the little ship to go up to the first destroyer ship. We go in and the door behind us closes. And I'm thinking, okay, I get it. This door's going to close and it's going to shake us a bit. And then the other door on the other side's going to open. And like we flew to space, but really we're just like in an antechamber before going into the ride building. So imagine my shock when the same door we left in from is the one that opens. And that's where the stormtroopers are. And from there on out, I was just like, I don't have any expectations. Whatever I thought a theme park ride was going to be, this is not it. This is on
Yeah.
another level.
So it's really interesting. And that's one of those things that really helps the immersion of it. And it's the transport is a motion simulator. It's on a turntable. So it's like a lazy Susan. So there's three of them going at once. And it's rotated and the rotations and movements are
That's what you're feeling.
yeah, you're synced with what you're seeing on screen, which Lieutenant Beck being like, okay, we're gonna get to the base. Oh no, Star Destroyer. And then you get captured.
So what I thought was happening was that the car you're in this ship is just like sliding forward or back, like into the show building.
Yeah.
But then when we went this last trip a couple months ago, I realized there's not any room on either end of the ship for a car to slide somewhere because the ship ends. It's not like embedded in the rock so that the car can slide, but there's physically no space for that. But the Lazy Susan thing makes a ton of sense.
I love going into that ship and being like, yeah, this is the ride to people who don't know what's going on.
Yeah, feel like that's it.
Yeah. The reason it didn't come out right when Galaxy's Edge opened is because there was an issue with the NFC chips that guide the trackless rides throughout the vehicles, and they were buried too deep into the floors for the ride to actually detect it, requiring all the floors to be torn up and replaced. So we want to talk about three very important things that we think make this ride the best ride ever. And one of the first things is the immersion. And that's just all things in Galaxy's Edge, right, Arzu?
Yeah, I think Galaxy's Edge as a whole is extremely immersive. I know Betu West, so the California one does have actually no Betu East now too, has Amanda walking around and like Boba Fett and Ahsoka. And it used to be Fennec Shand, but of course they took her away before I could ever meet her. They have those characters walking around for some reason. But besides that, I think they're really good at keeping this is one very specific day in Betu that you
Yeah.
are living through. like Groundhog Day style. Like it's the exact same day every day. And I love that about Galaxy's Edge. And then I think Rise of the Resistance really, because it's such a contained experience, really encapsulates that immersion really well.
Yeah, so there's no signs for this ride. There's not Rise of the Resistance anywhere.
There's
You
just
just
yeah,
kinda
there's just the time thing, right?
yeah.
That you have the
Yep.
time posted, and that's how you
Yeah,
know that's the entrance to the ride.
exactly. It's on the outskirts of Blackspire, and it's a rebel resistance base, I should say. Resistance, it's a Rise of Resistance. And when you go through this queue, you, like, see all this, like, resistance supplies and flight suit, and you see those maps from I was just getting your book out. Yes. This base is being packed up to go to another base. And it has those iconic maps, which I think a lot of Star Wars nerds have taken photos with, where it's just like
Oh, yeah.
pointing,
That's the
which
other one. That's the other thing I saw before I ever went was the map.
yeah. Which that was my profile picture for so long, but that's also because it was like I made it in February 2020, and after that I didn't take many other photos. So you're just fully immersed, and then you get into this hologram and you find out you have a mission. You're going to a different base. Ray said, "Go to this base." And BB-8 said it too. And you're like,
And what
"Yeah."
Ray says goes.
Yes. And when you're outside, you see this X-wing and it's life size, and it was actually used in The Mandalorian.
Oh,
It's the one that Dave Filoni was in, actually.
they took it
Or
out for the show and brought it back?
no, they were building it and they're like, "Hey, we're going to use that."
Oh,
'Cause it looks yeah, it's worthy of TV, and you can see
I see.
BB-8 in the X-Wing being, like, waiting for
Yeah,
Poe, which I think really adds a immersion. You're like, "Okay, Poe's coming with us. He's, like, right out back," and you get into the ship, and if you haven't been on this ride, you don't know what's going on. You
yeah.
don't know what's happening, and the ship literally moves. The animatronic of Lieutenant Beck, who's a Mon Calamari, is amazing.
It's so
Just
good. I think it's the best
stare at him.
animatronic on the ride, and I think it's because you're physically the closest to it.
Oh,
So
yeah. You can get so close to
yeah.
the animatronic. I feel like it's the closest you can get to an animatronic at Disney.
Yeah, because it's I guess if you're on Star Tours, the 3PO animatronic, you're about the same distance if you're
Yeah,
sitting up
but
front. But otherwise, yeah.
also it's like it's a living
Yeah, it's not a
being.
droid. It's a
Yeah.
flesh and blood being.
Yeah. And yeah, like we were talking about the stormtroopers, there's actually 50 stormtroopers all lined up staring at you. And the clever thing is they have a few of them that move. So you never know which ones are going to move.
Which it just that the movement of the stormtroopers, I honestly think the scale of the room is what really sells the immersion. Like, it is a colossal room. Like, it's truly, like, life size. It's like it's a realistically sized Star Destroyer hangar. If we all remember, like, The
Mhm.
Force Awakens, like, with the room that Poe and Finn go into with the TIE fighters mounted to the wall, like, it's the same size as that room,
Yeah, and you have
which
these
is
giant
insane to me.
TIE fighters that you're like, "Okay, I could actually fit in one of those."
And you
Like,
probably
it
could.
yep.
Yeah.
And really, I think one of the most beautiful things about this ride, we're not talking technology, we're not talking about the set, we're talking about the cast members
Yeah.
who play the First Order. And these people are committed to the bit.
It's like the
I admire them.
only service job at Disney World where you're allowed to be, like, mean to people.
So at 18 minutes for the complete experience, this is one of the longest Disney attractions. The ride itself is 5 minutes, which is long
Still pretty
for a ride.
long.
Yeah. There are
Yeah.
18 distinct scenes in the ride itself, too.
Is
So
that
I feel like
including, like,
that
Rey and going into the ship with Poe and the Stormtrooper? Is that including all that?
oh, I don't know. I could see it either way.
Because like, I'm thinking about the movement of the car, and 18 feels like a lot, but if you add in, like, up to the end, like, where you see
Yeah.
Beck again, that feels like 18.
Yeah. But I feel like even if it's just like more than 10, that's more than usual most rides. And
Yeah.
also it makes you feel like the scope of a star destroyer because even like the first scenes of A New Hope, you see a Star Destroyer going after the Tantive 5, and that's just the size of it, and
It
this
just
is
keeps going
bigger.
and going. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. It really does a really good job of painting the scale, like, just by what's in there. Like, the size of the room when you walk into the stormtrooper room, like, later when you're in the room with the AT-ATs and you have to go up a level, and they're, like, full size, like,
Yeah.
they're also life size, like, it really paints a picture of the scale of these things.
Going to technology on that note, which is a huge part of this, is the room with the AT-ATs actually only contains 2, but with the use of mirrors, it looks like there's 4 of them. I had no idea. It really
Yeah.
feels like there's multiples, like 4.
I feel like they don't ever notice anything but the 2 because they're, like, in your face, but I have to pay
Yeah,
attention to that. I did notice this
yeah.
trip because usually I'll go under the legs and then go up the elevator that where they're shooting at you from the side of the AT-AT, but
Mhm.
there's, like, the second track where you go up the other way and you're right in front of its face.
Yeah.
I for the first time on this last trip, it ended up on that track, and I noticed this room has 2 fins in it, 1 for each track.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that makes" because I like, the whole time when I would go up the first track, I'm like, "Well, it kinda sucks if you're going the other way because you don't see Finn." But no, you can either
So
also,
these
apologies if you thought
AT-ATs
any of this was
oh,
real and we're just disillusioning you.
no, just breaking the illusion. The
Yeah.
AT-ATs are 72 feet tall, which they feel it, don't they?
If
Again,
I was a child, I would be
life
crying. I would be crying. It would be too big.
I'm surprised you weren't as an adult
I as an
and
adult, I'm like,
considered it.
legally can't hurt, but
But
as a
going back
child
to the very beginning of Ray, like we talked about the hologram.
Mhm.
It is, created by an OLED display with a one-way mirror. That's how that giant hologram and it's
Okay.
such an amazing effect. You feel like you're in a
Mhm.
Star Wars with that hologram and with, like, little BB-8 just peeking out. He's on a
Yep.
track, which you can't quite see him rolling, but
It's
because
the
he's on a
same
track.
yeah. It's the
Yeah.
same thing in Guardians in California
Oh,
with
yeah.
Rocket when he pops up, it's the same idea, like, the track is beneath the border, so you don't
Yeah.
see it. Very clever.
And when you get into the interrogation room, which again I was a kid, I would be crying, honestly. The images of General Hux and Kylo Ren are the effect is the Pepper's ghost effect, like the Haunted Mansion.
Really?
However, they use additional projections to create shadows so they look solid versus translucent, like
I
the
thought it was a
Haunted Mansion.
screen. That's
There's
so
screens with it.
cool.
But yeah, it's Pepper's ghost
Wait,
plus shadows.
how is Pepper's Ghost being done with a video?
You can do it with videos too, with the reflection
I'm
to
not
make
doubting
them
I'm not doubting the information,
yeah.
I'm just like, I wanna see, like, how it
Oh,
works.
yeah. No, I was trying to read all this information so I could explain it better, but I can't. But
But that's really
I'll
cool.
inserting a video of what Pepper's ghost looks like all around right here.
Love
Sorry for
Pepper's
people
Ghost.
listening at home. Watch our video on YouTube. And so Kylo and Hux leave, and the Resistance rescues you. There's projection effects and strobe lights that are used to simulate the metal being cut, and it
Right.
slides away with a mechanism. And I've been in the interrogation room before where you just hear people outside going and, like,
Mhm.
nothing's happening. And I'm like, "They're not gonna rescue us."
Just gonna leave listen, if
I
you
know
just tell
that's your
Kylo to
dream,
call his mom, he'll just storm off and then you'll be fine.
which Arezou did at Galaxy's Edge, which inserting here now for the video. The vehicles utilize a wireless charging as well as RFID pucks in the floor to give the vehicle's positions data, allowing it to navigate the attraction without a track. This attraction is actually 2 stories, so
Yeah.
they have to make sure they know also what floor they're on as well.
Right.
And there's
Pretty
actually
cool.
charging ports where you load and where you unload. So they're constantly being charged in between like the ride. So
Can
there's
you
no like
imagine your car just dies in the AT-AT room and you're just sitting there?
I would be so happy because I'd be like, "Where's that mirror at?
Oh, that's true.
Let me find it, and let me find it." I think also this goes with immersion. and the story itself. The ride has multiple ride systems, which includes motion simulator, a trackless ride, and it has a drop, which
Let's talk about the drop.
let's talk about the drop, which is so funny every time I ride it. I've ridden it like 10 times now, and I still jump every time.
So the very first time we went, like a couple years ago, I was so into this and I was so immersed that when you get in the elevator in the room and go up, it hadn't occurred to me if you go up, you have to come back down because that's where the loading is. I hadn't thought about this because, like, why am I thinking ahead? I'm in the moment. But then Kylo Ren comes out and he's like waving his arms and threatening you. And then you're like, run. And then you get in those escape pods and I can hear the car lock into something.
Mhm. Why would it lock,
I'm,
Arezou?
I'm like aware, I can see it that we slid into a lock. And I'm not even thinking about it until it starts rumbling, and you can see out the window that other escape pods are dropping.
Yep.
I was not expecting it to drop, and then it did, so I screamed, and then you bounce around a bit, and then you land on bit too, but
Yeah.
for all that they really do telegraph that you're about to fall, it's very easy to forget you're about to fall.
Yeah. And it's a great way to end the ride where,
Yeah.
like, how do you get off this Star Destroyer? You get in a
Get in an escape pod and you
Yeah,
run.
you get an escape pod and that thing drops. So let's talk about the animatronics. Like we talked before, Lieutenant Beck is amazing. I stare at him every time I'm on it, where I'm like, "Why are you so beautiful? You're so pretty." And I know you do that with the Kylo Ren one too. So
But,
there
like,
are
the reason I'm doing that to the Kylo Ren one, is that the same reason you're doing that to the Lieutenant Beck one?
No, I'm more like, "You're a tech marvel. You're so cool."
Whereas I'm
Yeah,
like, "I will tell you anything you wanna know, Kylo
I
Ren."
know, it's a
And
trope.
also a little bit General Hux.
General
Mm.
Hux is so extra.
He needs a hug.
Okay, so there are 65 animatronic figures in this ride.
Is that including the Stormtroopers?
Yeah, I don't think it counts, like, all 50 of them, but the ones that move, because the
Okay.
ones that don't move are just, like, statues. There's also those 2 when you get through the queue a bit,
There's
and
2
they're just
inside.
yeah.
There's a Hux, a Kylo, 2
There's
Finns,
multiple Kylos.
like 3 Kylos.
Yeah.
3 Kylos, 2 Stormtroopers in the room, there's 1 Hux, 2 Finns. They have to be counting all those
Yeah,
Stormtroopers
they
out
I guess
there,
they
even if they're
do.
not moving.
Yeah. So, there are 3 higher end AAs. Oh, there are 3 higher ends animatronics using Disney A-1000 audio animatronic technology, which is used for Hondo and Smuggler's Run,
Okay.
and the amazing Beauty and the Beast ride in Tokyo, Belle, is
Yes.
with that technology, which I can't wait for us to go.
Let them go!
We're going Tokyo!
Yeah,
Welcome to
we are.
Tokyo!
We
Star Wars
haven't booked
Celebration.
anything yet, but
No, we have
we're going
not.
to Tokyo.
I have not even looked at the prices.
I'm panicking
I am
for
panicked
a
too.
multitude
But
of reasons.
yeah, my credit cards are panicking. Yay. On that note. But anyway, definitely one of the Kylos. I believe the Kylo when he's trying to get you before he gets blown out of an airlock is one
Mhm.
of the fancy ones. And Beck is definitely one.
Yes.
I don't know
The
which one the
Finn
third one.
animatronics are not great.
No, they are not. Same with Hux. Hux
Yeah.
is a little but you're not
They're
really
they're
looking at Hux from
3 of them are a little worse for wear.
yeah.
I don't even think they're worn out. I just feel like because you see them so briefly,
Yeah.
they don't come at you, you're just looking at them as you're moving. I think that's why. Because like, the Kylo one that threatens you right before he gets pulled out of the airlock or whatever is right up in your face,
Yeah.
and they hold you there for a minute, so I think that's why. But
So some interesting things about this then is the narrative itself.
mhm,
Is you feel like you're part of the story. So this is set between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Apparently, there is a reason Kylo has his helmet in this time period, Martin said, but I can't find what the story is. Just that there is a reason. Do you know it, Arzu?
no, because he broke it in the last Jedi, and then
And he fixed it
think
in
about
Rise
some
of
of this
Skywalker.
now. Is he wearing his helmet? He doesn't have a helmet. Maybe this is his extra.
Yeah, it's his extra. It's his
One of sunburn, so wearing his helmet.
He's not used to having his face out so much. He's like, "Ugh."
He's just too busy crying over Ray, and he's like, "Maybe I should keep my bloodshot eyes to myself," and puts the helmet on. That's my reason.
There we go. She made it about Raylo.
Are we surprised that I brought this up?
I know, but I was waiting. You took some time. Took some
Well,
time. I'm
I
proud
didn't
of
need
you.
to go out of my way to make this one about Ben Solo. The ride's about half about Kylo
The
Ren.
ride is Ben Solo. It's Ben
The
Solo's
ride
ride,
is
really.
that's quite the ride.
No, no, gross. Okay, gross. Apologies to children watching. The waterfall at the beginning of the line is referenced heavily in Delilah Dawson's novel Black Spire, which Arezou has right here. If you are listening to the podcast, she is holding up the book.
If you are a book person and you want to read more about Galaxy's Edge, I'm going to do a little book promo real quick. Delilah Dawson's Black Spire is an adult novel set on Batuu, and Zoraida Cordova's A Crash of Fate is a young adult novel set on Batuu. Black Spire is an outsider's view of Batuu, and The Crash of Fate is two kids who live there. So you get an insider and an outsider perspective. That's my book talk. Thank you for listening.
Speaking of books, the planet that you're being sent to for the new base is Ipakura, which is a planet from True Ipakura by Kathy Tylers. The ship that you are sent to is the Finalizer, which was first seen in Force Awakens. It is Kylo's ship,
Oh, yeah.
the big boy, the big ship.
That's why he's there.
There are some fan theories, which I like because it puts everything together with the Galaxy's Edge. Like, if you ride Star Tours first, you find out there's like a rebel spy with you on Star Tours, or you are the rebel spy. Who knew? And a lot of the times, it's at least lately have been sequel characters like Poe being like, "Hey, get the spy to here," or Lando being like, "Join us." And the idea is that okay, you went on this trip with this rebel spy, and now you're like, okay, I'm joining the rebellion because this guy in coach was nice. I don't know. Or like a lot of the times is about a quarter of the time, I feel like you end up landing in bed too anyway.
So,
So maybe you get caught up in the drama and you're just like, what's going on? I'm a resistance spy now.
which would suck if you're in California or in Paris because Star Tours is in the other park.
Yeah. And Star Tours is in the same park at Disneyland, but it's on the other
It
side
is.
of the park.
Yes, it is. It's not a California adventure.
No, Star Tours
Ignore
is
me.
in Tomorrowland and Disneyland, and Galaxy's
It's
Edge
behind
is near
Frontierland.
Frontier. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I got that mixed. I was definitely thinking about Paris only. But yeah,
yeah,
if they when they put it up in Studio Park in Paris, Star Tours is in the other park.
yeah. Oh, I wonder if the Rise of Resistance is gonna be in French.
Oh, that's a good question. Because what Disneyland Paris does, for those of you that haven't gone, is a lot of their rides that are like narrative based are bilingual. So they'll have one character say something in English and the other one will respond to them in French. But
But
that
they'll
just begs the
repeat.
question of who is speaking English and who is speaking French.
Like,
Probably gonna speak French because they
y
don't have to worry about his mouth.
because yeah, when we rode the Avengers roller coaster, which is really just rock and roller coaster, I was lied to. Brie Larson's there as Captain Marvel, but they have someone else playing Tony Stark in his
In
Iron
the
Man
helmet.
suit, and he's speaking French while she's, "That's right, Tony. We need to do this." While in French, she's, "We need to do this," kinda thing.
You know what it'll probably be? It'll probably be Ray will probably speak English. Beck
Okay.
will speak French.
Yeah. And Poe will speak
Finn will
English.
speak French because once you're on the ride, you can hear him, but you can't see him. Finn will
Yeah.
speak French. Poe will speak English. Kylo will speak French. Hux will speak English.
Yep.
We've got this
We
down
solved
for
it for them.
posterity. So when this opens, I want to check this against what actually winds up happening.
Yeah, we'll have to look at some ride,
We'll have to just go to
videos.
Paris.
Yeah, or we could just go. We didn't spend enough time in either Disneyland Paris or Paris, in my opinion.
I think you're right.
Yeah, like a
We should
week
just go
in
back to
Paris,
Paris.
right? Yeah, just go back in Paris, just like that, right? Not like we have a
Just kind
Tokyo
of
trip to save up for.
anyway.
We have a lot on our mind. We're recording this right after the tickets were announced.
We've got so much going through our heads right now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Something I'm a little sad about the ride is the scene where you're going through like the laser cannon room. The laser
Mhm.
cannons used to move. And that's the idea of why your vehicle like stops. because you're trying to time it. The droid is trying to time it, and they're trying to go before. But I haven't been on it since 2020, and it moved. And I've been on both
I have
Disneyland
never
and
seen it move. And the first
ugh,
time I went was 2022. I've never seen those move.
I'm sad because it was a really cool effect. I don't know what happened to make it stop, but
Maybe that
it
was one of the effects that was just breaking the most easily, and it doesn't really it's cool, but it doesn't affect the narrative if it doesn't happen. They just cut
yeah.
their losses.
But if, like, you're like, "Why aren't
Yeah.
you moving? Why are we taking our sweet time going through this?"
Yeah.
I guess you could argue that the laser is going overhead. You don't want them
Yeah,
to be,
like,
like,
it's almost like they're
anywhere close
waiting
to
for
you.
the laser to stop and then
Yeah.
going, which doesn't totally track because it's not aimed at you, but it's fine,
Uh,
like, kids won't notice.
yeah. Speaking of the vehicle and the driver, R5, the little droid that has been reprogrammed is so cute. I love him.
Mhm.
He's on a redemption journey. He was an Imperial prisoner droid, and now he's part of the resistance, and he's doing his best.
Which
Everyone should be nicer to him.
okay, it's the coolest it's not the coolest thing, but it's a pretty cool thing, is that when you're first pulling out of the bay, like,
Mhm.
when the resistance rescues you and you're pulling out of the bay to get off the ship, and you're in the initial room after you leave, your car and the car of the other people who loaded in the same room are going through, and other cars are passing you, and they're empty. And it's, "Oh, don't act don't be suspicious," because
Don't
they're
think suspicious.
scanning you or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just going back to the bay to load the next group, but because the eyes are flashing a different color, like, they've integrated the need to move the cars back into the room as, like, part of the story.
Yeah, and I
Like,
think
they could
that's
have
so
loaded in
clever.
from a different direction, but it's so much cooler to, like, take the road less traveled, take the easiest route of just loading them in through that main hallway and just making it part of the story.
And it makes everything feel like, okay, there's one way out, one way in and out, which
Way
is
in and way
what
out, and
yeah,
also that, like, you're not the only car in here, there are
yeah.
other droids running around, so it does
And
add to that as well.
there's evil droids. There's, like, evil, suspicious droids, and yeah, I love that. They could just be, like, ignored or put up make the room smaller so you don't see the other empty
I think that's the strongest thing about this ride is that there's so many places where you, if, as somebody who has been to a lot of theme parks, where we can just look at these and be like, "You could have cut a corner here," and they chose not to.
Oh,
And
definitely. Like,
we wouldn't have known what we were missing, so we would have been fine with it. We probably still would have been really impressed, but they don't cut any corners, and I think that's really cool.
yeah, they could have totally made the room like a screen room with the AT-ATs.
Or look,
Oh, yeah, 1. They gave us 2 and mirrors that made it look like 4.
full size AT-ATs, that's a lot.
That is a lot. And making it 2 stories also, and having this it's an 18-minute experience, really. Once you get past, like, the rocky cave area and you're in, like, the actual, resistance base, and you're seeing all this
Yeah.
the blasters and the flight suits, and you even see, like, the Bacta thing that
All of
Ben was
which is
in.
explained in here, in Black Spire. I so because, like, she set up this base for land, she's, like, supplying and she's gathering things and she's storing them there, so it's all actually explained in the book, like, why that stuff is there.
Yeah, and even if you haven't read the book, you just feel like, "Okay, it makes sense all this stuff is here." So, yeah, you feel like you're in a Star Wars. And that isn't that all we've wanted since we were small children, is to be
Yeah.
in a Star Wars. I think even if we weren't, like, Star Wars fans as diehard as we are, we have a freaking Star Wars
The first time you
oh,
and I went on it, we were with a couple of our friends, one of whom is a
yeah.
Star Wars fan and the other whom really she really isn't. I don't think she'd seen all of them, or maybe she saw them once. We got off of Rise, and she was the first one to suggest we get back in line and go again.
Yeah,
That's how
definitely.
impressive it is.
I feel like, yeah, it's the same thing with the Pandora, the Avatar land is Avatar's fine. I've seen it. I'm not
I
rewatching
loved
it.
Avatar Land. I haven't seen it since
Yeah.
2010, but I
Yeah.
loved Avatar Land.
Yeah. So
Or
it's
Pan
we can judge these as also theme park fans who are insane and will be in Paris and be like, what if we go to Disneyland Paris while we're in Paris? I'm already looking
when
up
did we tell
all the
people
theme
that?
parks.
They're like, "Why?"
Why? Don't you have Disney at home, right? Like,
But
it's
literally,
not
we're not
insane.
going to Disneyland Paris, we have Disney at home.
Yes, exactly. But I'm already looking up all the theme parks that are in Tokyo, just Disneyland Tokyo. But yes, we wanna know, are you a fan of Rise of Resistance? Is there things about it that are cool that we missed?
If not, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And
And I'm just realizing we had our lower thirds in different formats.
I just won't miss.
We fail on so many levels.
That's
At least
that's us in a nutshell. We don't do
yeah,
things the same way, but we'll do them together.
we're messy. But on that
That's why
note,
you love us.
yeah.
May the waffles be with you.